Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Rune Words. Today we have access to another new rune word, which I regret to say has not been confirmed. I think this is one of the ones that was released by the Korean YouTuber. It seems like basically what Blizzard has been doing is they've been releasing the rune words to specific YouTubers, and those YouTubers then go through the process of sort of giving those to the community. And this one was by a Korean streamer, and it is called Flickering Flame. Flickering Flame is a Nef rune, a Pul rune, and a Vex rune, so it is a little expensive with the Vex rune in there. The Pul rune, of course, is not super easy to come by. You will usually have a couple of them laying around, but it's not like you're going to have like the Nef rune, which you have like 100 laying around, and you end up not picking them up at some point, unless you're a crafter. And so Nef Pul Vex is a little expensive. But let's dive into this rune word and let's talk about what it could possibly be good for. And then I will provide you a download link so you can play around with it yourself. So, Flickering Flame head armor. So, obviously, 3 sockets and a head armor with the highest rune being a Vex. And let's just double check really quickly because a lot of the times I accidentally make these in higher level items. So our Vex rune is definitely our highest rune in this armor. And it is a level 55 rune. So, so the highest level of this particular rune word is level 55. We've got a level 8 resist fire aura when equipped. And resist fire is the paladin aura that gives you essentially your fire resistance. And it's actually pretty sweet because it's a pretty huge amount of fire resistance at level 8. I think it's like 100%. Let me just double check here. Yeah, 102% at level 8 with a radius of 18.6 yards. That's pretty cool. And I don't know if the player actually gets access to the maximum fire resistance, but we can always test that out on the helmet because I have the helmet and we're going to play around with it. So we'll have fun with it. We also have a +3 to fire skills, which is absolutely great and makes this a super duper awesome option for fire skills druids, because fire skill druids can then combine this with a helmet that already has 3 fire skills on it, like for instance a volcano druid, for instance, maybe running Armageddon as well, because they do synergize together. Or perhaps you're just having fun with molten boulder or whatever it is. You could find, for instance, a helmet that has +3 volcano, +3 molten boulder on it, and then you would have +6 total to those particular skills, which is pretty darn sweet. Of course, you can also make this in a regular helmet, and you could potentially put this on a sorceress. You could put this on a paladin or whatever characters need fire skill damage. You could also theoretically put this on a fire mercenary, which may be what it is intended for. Fire mercenaries, of course, are terrible in the game, but Blizzard is talking about beefing up all the mercenaries, except for the Act 2 mercenary, of course, which does not need beefing up. And so far, we have seen a barbarian rune word that was specifically made for the barbarian. It was called Unbending Will. And then we also saw a rune word that seemed to be very specifically geared toward a Act 1 mercenary. So it kind of makes sense that this may be a rune word that is geared specifically toward a Act 3 mercenary. Although I really hope that they remove the horrible, horrible Inferno from the Act 3 mercenary, the Act 3 fire mercenary, because Inferno on that mercenary, just it's god awful. Now they are talking about beefing up Inferno, but I really just hope they go with another skill other than that on that mercenary. Otherwise, I think people are probably still not going to choose him. We also have -13% to enemy fire resistance, which is absolutely amazing. And if you guys and gals are out there are not familiar with how the breaking of immunities works, is that you need conviction or lower resistance to actually break the immunity. This is something that that is well known throughout the community. But once the immunity is broken, once it's at 99%, negative fire resistance, and negative lightning, and negative cold, and things like that can come into effect and reduce it even further. So this actually has a huge effect on the amount of damage that you can put out, even if you are running something like an infinity or a lower resistance wand or something of that nature, because this can stack on top of that and reduce the resistance even further, giving you even more damage toward those particular elements. It is important to note, though, that negative enemy fire resistance cannot break the immunity itself. So that's you do need conviction or lower resist to do the initial breaking of the immunity, and then this can take over and bring it down further. We also have 30% enhanced defense, which of course is going to be nice because this is a helmet that's going to be used on some higher level characters. At level 55, you're talking about mid to end game, and I would assume that if you found the absolute perfect, +3/+3/+3 druid helmet, this would actually be an amazing druid helmet for a fire druid. We have 30 defense versus missile, which of course comes from the Nef rune, and +88 to mana, which is great for a caster type. In fact, it's great for anybody. We have 5% to maximum fire resist, so they're really hammering on the fire effect on this particular helmet. We have half freeze duration, which is nice, but most people cannot be frozen by this particular time. And poison length reduced by 50%, which is always a rather undervalued stat, but it works fairly well. Now, what I want to do is take you over to a character that I actually created for the purpose of testing out this particular item. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have the link down in the description, so, down there, and you can click on the link and you can download this save file. And I've created a very temporary, sort of like thrown together character with spirits and Skin of the Viper Magi and Mara's Kaleidoscope, etc. And he has 2 Sojas, an Arachnid's Mesh, Silk Weaves, and some Mage Fists, just so that you can test out the new helmet. I have 2 versions of the new helmet. I have the Alpha Helm, which has +3 Armageddon on it, so he's rocking a total of +6 to Armageddon. And then I also have a +3 fire skills version, which can be used on anybody, that you can transfer around on your offline characters as you want and play around with it maybe on a fire sorceress. He also has 440 stat points waiting in the wing, and he's also 96 skill points waiting in the ring for level 85. So you can play around with what it might be like to have a fire druid with this new helmet. You can transfer over your own equipment, or you can just transfer the helmet off to somebody else and play around with it that way. But you will have access to this character. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this character for a spin and play around with the new helmet and see how well it works. All right, so I went ahead and dumped in some stats real quick so I can actually utilize the item. And as you can see, now I have the Holy Fire Aura on my character, which is pretty darn cool. Let's take it off for a second and put it back on. We'll grab a mercenary as well. And you know what? I think I made a small mistake. I think that's Holy Fire instead of Holy Resist Fire. I will be right back, and I will actually fix that. That'll take me about 2 seconds. All right, so we got that fixed. Now we're running Resist Fire, not Holy Shock. Holy Fire. And we also have the 80% fire resistance. So there was 5% extra fire resistance on the helmet, and supposedly Holy Fire would give us a bonus of 7% to our maximum. But we know that the current maximum is 70%. And let me pull myself to the center here so you guys can see this. And I am at 80%, so I am not getting the 7% from the Holy. So you see Resistance Fire Aura. But I am getting the massive 102% fire resistance. 106% fire resistance from the level 8 Resist Fire Aura, which is pretty darn cool. That's definitely a very interesting thing that you can just give to a mercenary at this point. This is literally going to be an item that you could put on any mercenary. Granted, you probably would want to put it on specifically a fire damage mercenary, but then let's think about Obedience. Obedience has a rather large amount of fire damage. It has enchant, it has firewall procs, and you could potentially get some nice fire damage out of an Obedience slash Flickering Flame merc. That'd be kind of interesting, and throw like a dragon on him or something. So it'd be running like an Obedience, a dragon, and a Flickering Flame all together. That would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? So let's go ahead and drop some skill points in here for this particular guy. Let's just go ahead and beef up his Armageddon and his skills. So we're going to do Volcano first. And we need Molten Boulder, Fissure, and Armageddon. So Molten Boulder, Fissure, Armageddon, and Armageddon is also beefed up by Firestorm, it looks like, so might as well throw points in there as well. And I'm not really going to put any points in anything else. We're just going to have fun with the fire skills. So let's go ahead and throw Molten Boulder on our left click, and we'll throw Armageddon and Volcano over here. And we'll put Volcano on our main click, and we'll go have some fun with this particular helmet for a second. So we should be able to spam some very high damage Volcanoes and Armageddons. So let me go ahead and get my Armageddon running. Oh, wrong one. Armageddon. And let's start spawning some Volcanoes, shall we? And of course they're mana burn. And they immediately took all my mana away. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. They still have not fixed the mana burn bug, and that is so silly. Who needs mana? Apparently me, because I am a person who gets hit by mana leeching monsters. You know what, Shank? You know what, Eldritch? You know what, Eldritch? I don't want to play with you today. How about that? I'm gonna. I think we'll have to just suffer through it. I'll go down here, away from Mr. Mana Burn monsters. I've always liked the way that Volcano does a lot of damage to one target. It's just sad that it doesn't do a lot of damage to multiple targets. Of course, Fire Druid was never really that great of a character to begin with, but do keep in mind that they were talking about beefing up the Fire Druid side of the equation. So it's not necessarily like that this is going to stay terrible. Well, at least I hope it doesn't stay terrible. The casting delay on these abilities is just awful. And Mr. Shanky Poo is dead. And if you'd like to download this particular character and play around with this particular helmet, you're more than welcome to. So what are my final thoughts on this helmet? Well, it looks like it is specifically geared, obviously, toward fire casters. However, the addition of the resist fire aura makes for a rather interesting addition. You could pop this on just about any mercenary that you would want, just to give them an extra aura. You know, say you were running a might aura merc. You could throw a pride polearm on him. He'd have concentration, and then you could throw this on his head too, and he'd have freaking resist fire on top of that. They'd be running 3 auras at one time, which is certainly kind of cool. And it does obviously have a real sort of purpose. The purpose of it is fire, lots of fire, 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 fire resistance, fire maximum resistance, negative fire resistance, and plus fire skills. And the entire purpose of it revolves around those fire characters. This could be potentially a very nice Fire Sorceress helmet, a very nice Fire Druid helmet, as you can see, because you can get plus to skills on it, so that would be very interesting. You could also potentially use this on a Holy Fire Paladin if you wanted to make a Holy Fire Paladin. They did talk about beefing up the Holy Fire skill, and it would be rather interesting to have the Holy Fire Paladin using something like this. Granted, it doesn't have any type of melee abilities on it, so there's no, increased attack speed, there's no faster hit recovery, we've got no, bonus to HP or massive amount of resistance to any other element other than fire. So this is going to create a imbalance as well, which is very interesting. So a lot of the times when you build a character, as far as resistances are concerned, you're building the character specifically for the purpose of, having all of your resistances capped. Well, wearing this helmet or having this helmet on a mercenary is going to create a situation where your fire resistance is always capped, even if your other resistances are in the negative. So you're going to have to figure out a way to to balance out your resistances using your other equipment. Should be interesting. It is also interesting to note that when you look at the Spirit Shield Monarch, fire resistance is the one resistance that is missing from the shield. So it could be very interesting that the new Rune Word, Flickering Flame, kind of fills that gap in the Spirit Monarch shield of missing fire resistance. It's kind of cool. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and this particular rune word certainly does seem like an interesting one. It does seem like it could potentially be a very powerful rune word, and if you're interested in downloading this rune word and playing around with my mock version so you can have some fun with it, that link will be in the description below for you all to download. And as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and keep watching.